pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Granquist, Arns,
Here.
Webb,
Here.
McCarthy,
Here.
Murin,
Here.
Snorton,
Here.
Clausen,
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will move to item number 5, an approval of the consent agenda. We've had a citizen request that items 18 and 21 be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda. With that change, I would look for a motion. A second.
Your Honor, I'll be abstaining from the consent agenda.
I'll also be abstaining from the consent agenda.
And I'll make a motion to approve the agenda minus items number 18 and 21.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
See, one more to there we go. Voting in the affirmative, Arns, Snorton, Hildebrand, Clausen, Murin, abstaining, McCarthy, and Webb. Motion carries.
Okay, would then look for a motion to approve the full agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the full agenda.
Second.
Motion second, if no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
All right, that takes us to, before we get to the regular agenda, special presentations on your council agenda under item number 24. We've got 2 proclamations tonight. The first is a proclamation designating May 12th through 18th, 2024 as National Skilled Nursing Care Week. Do I have those? Brianna, here they are. Okay. All right. This proclamation reads as such: whereas the week of May 12th to May 18th has been designated as National Skilled Nursing Care Week, an observance that honors the dedicated care provided in skilled nursing centers across the nation. And this year's theme, Radiant Memories, a tribute to the golden age of radio, celebrates the rich tapestry of stories and experiences of those who reside and work within skilled nursing care centers, recalling an era cherished by many of our community's elders. And whereas skilled nursing care providers play a pivotal role in delivering compassionate care to America's elderly and individuals with disabilities, and whereas we acknowledge and celebrate the invaluable contributions of skilled nursing care centers and their staff to the lives of residents and their families. Now, therefore, I, Josh Boning, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, by the power vested in me, do hereby proclaim May 12th through 18th as National Skilled Nursing Care Week in the City of Norfolk, and encourage all citizens to recognize and participate in National Skilled Nursing Care Week activities and events. This week serves as a testament to the essential role that skilled nursing care plays in our communities and in the lives of many individuals and their families. Is there anyone here tonight to receive the proclamation? Okay, very good. All right, the second proclamation tonight is to recognize May 15th, 2024 as Law Enforcement Memorial Day in Norfolk, and May 12th through the 18th as Police Week in Norfolk. The proclamation for National Police Week reads as such: whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the U.S., including the dedicated members of the Norfolk Police Division. And whereas the Norfolk Police Division plays an essential role in safeguarding the rights, freedoms, and property of all members of the community, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And the men and women of the Norfolk Police Division unceasingly provide this vital public service. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Josh Moaning, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, on behalf of our citizens, declare the week of May 12th to May 18th to be Police Week in the City of Norfolk, and May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community, or have become disabled in the performance of duty, and to let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Be it further resolved that I and the Norfolk City Council call upon all citizens to join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their calling have rendered a dedicated service to their community and have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. We publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and communities across the nation. I believe we have some officers here tonight to officially receive the proclamation. If they would join me in front, please.
Continue doing our part to keep the community safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Miller, and thank you to all the officers who were here tonight and the entire division, all our law enforcement agencies in the area. This is an appropriate recognition of the hard work and energy they put into keeping our community safe. So thank you once again. Okay, that takes us to our regular agenda, and starting with item number 18, we would look for a motion to consider approval to award a contract to Iowa Plains Signing Incorporated for an amount of $124,719.60 for long line striping and symbols.
I'll offer for consideration approval to award a contract to Iowa Plains Signing.
Second.
Motion and second, and to hear some background on this, we'll hear from Will Ewell, our City Streets Director. Will.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back on February 20th, I believe it was, we came to get permission to bid for the long line striping, and I think we had mowing at the same time, if I remember right. I don't remember if we said 100,000 or 125. We figured the mowing would be close to 100. The striping, we weren't sure. We'd never bid it before. When Steve and I talked, we figured if we could be somewhere in that 100 to 125. With this being paid through the 1.1 million that we have in shaft by work by contract. And we end up with two bids then on April 5th. One being the Iowa Plains signing in the amount of the 124,760, and the other way by Heining Signing Incorporated in the amount of 133,118.25. This here was to help us. It took us all year to stripe. We'll still have some striping, but it's mainly like Norfolk Avenue and some of the side streets down there, and then some symbols mainly around schools and a few other side streets. This takes care of pretty much all the arterial streets for the ped crossings, railroad crossings, everything like that. So that's what we have here in front of you tonight. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Will. Any questions?
The last meeting was at February 20th, you said. At that time, you mentioned too that by hiring this out, we're getting a much better quality paint job done. Is that correct?
Well, we're hoping so. There's a few things that come into that. You know, if we were getting it on heavy or not, heavy enough or not, we don't know with the way our striping is set up. That's all required in this contract that they have to put it down so many mil. We'll be checking that. It may give us longer life periods, what we're hoping.
Because we can't measure the mill, right?
Well, we don't know exactly what others are putting down. Talking with Chad, he does have a gun that, I don't know how accurate it is, but we'll try that he used for measuring stuff on the water tower when they had it. We're going to see if we can do something like that. Otherwise, we'll look at somebody to help us trying to figure that to make sure we are getting the right thickness down and hoping that we get longer lasting out of this as well.
Well, remember part of that discussion too was the amount of time it saves your street crews, right? Because this can be somewhat tedious and time staking work, right? So can you estimate in terms of hours? You don't have to be specific, but that's another component here that you'll be able to put street crews on street work as opposed to having to.
Correct. I don't know hours exactly as I do manpower, but the way it starts now, when school got out, we started striping with 2 to 4 guys, and that would last us through pretty much September, October, time we got done wrapping it up. Here with what we have listed, they'll come in and do this in a week, 2 weeks at the most for this contractor to do it. And then what we have once school's out, we're hoping that we can turn our stuff around within a month instead of spending months out there at it. Any other questions?
And this covers pretty much the entire community, doesn't it?
All the arterial streets, so, I mean, they're listed there, but your Benjamin, Riverside, all of First Street, 25th Street, all the way to Eisenhower from Omaha, or 275, Paswalk, all of Paswalk, Norfolk Avenue, except for the downtown area. We'll take care of that, because there's angle striping and stuff, and we have a walk by, and so we figured we could do that. 7th Street from Omaha to Benjamin, Madison Avenue from 1st Street to 13th Street, 37th Street from Omaha Avenue to the city limits up on Gulfview, all of Eisenhower that's in the city limits, and then Victory Road from the roundabout to Eisenhower is what we have in for this year. And that's just the roads we had listed, not knowing where this would come in, and we did have in there we could add or subtract roads if needed, is how we had that laid out.
Okay. And should this be approved tonight, what's the timeline on that?
Well, we gave them
Anticipated to
from June to September to get it done. They understand we want it done before school starts. So the sooner we get back to them, the sooner they'll get it on their list, and then they'll work their way through different communities. They'll hit this at that same time.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Any public comment on this? Any further discussion, council? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, item 21, would look for a motion to consider approval of changes to the city's personnel rules in sections 5.4 and 6.10.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of changes to the city personnel rules.
Second.
Motion second. For some background on this, we'll hear from Jessica Dvorak, our City Human Resources Director. Jessica.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So the reason for these changes are based on a Civil Service Commission meeting. We met March 13th, and it was at the request of the police and fire chief that we look at updating our current residency requirements for candidates applying for those positions, which Chief Miller and Chief Raggi are here to speak to their specific changes. But we went ahead at that meeting, the commissioners did approve the changes, so we need to reflect the personnel manual to also have those changes. So Chapter 5, appointment, Section 5.4 for residents. We are looking at changing the Fire Division Bureau personnel, the change for residency where candidates can live to work, to apply for positions. It went from 20 miles to a 45-mile radius. And the other change was that they need to be able to return to work within 60 minutes instead of 45. So it just broadens our pool of candidates. Right now, police, we are looking at changing it from 20 to 30-mile radius and being able to return to work within 45 minutes. We just went through a search process for both positions, and we did see an increase in candidates for both pools by doing this. And then the additional piece we adjusted was the probationary period for newly sworn law enforcement officers should either be 9 months or upon successful completion of field training, whichever occurs first. And this does not include to a promotional process, and that would be updated or added to Chapter 6, 6-month evaluation period, Section 6.10 requirement. So that's what we're looking at. We've already changed it through the Civil Service Commission guidelines. We just need to reflect those changes in our personnel manual. Are there any questions? Okay.
Seems to make sense.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Any public comment on this?
Mayor and council, the one thing I want to clarify, I think Jessica misspoke. For the police probation, it's after probation or if you're completing field training, whichever is later, not whichever is first. Was the only difference. Otherwise, she covered it very well.
Okay, thank you, Chief. All right, any other discussion?
Jim McKenzie, I'm supportive of these changes. I just had a question. When I read through it, the proposed changes appear to eliminate, unless this is only for civil service, but the current says until the expiration of a period of 6 months probationary services, and that's stricken and changed to a predetermined probationary period. And then down below it lists the probationary periods for promotions and for new police officers, but non-police hires or new fire hires. Seems like that got left out. So that was just a question on that. I'm supportive of the changes, but it just seemed like maybe that change might have left the other positions out.
Have to have staff take a look at that right quick and provide some kind of response.
If you want to give them some time to look into it, we could table this and
Is that
come
not,
back.
is the question understood by staff? Okay.
Are you asking Jim if it's the same for police and fire?
Well, it looks like it originally.
Can we have this conversation on the mic, please?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry, and maybe it's just a question, but it looks like it originally applied to all city staff, that probationary period, is that correct? On all the departments,
Let's see where we're at here again, Jim.
the current?
To enable the city administrator to exercise choice in filling the positions, no appointments, employment, promotions in any position in the service entry level promotion shall be deemed completed until after the expiration of the period of 6 months probationary period.
So that's
Service.
And then when it's changed, until the expiration of a predetermined probationary period, and then the definition of the predetermined probationary period is for promotions is 6
6
months.
months.
For new police officers is 9 months. But how about for new hires of other divisions that are non-police or new hires of?
I think the clarification here is anybody that's been hired through the civil service process. So those staff, that staff, the rest of the regular employees wouldn't fall under the same.
Right, ours,
Category.
fires did not see a change in the probationary period, ours stated 6 months.
Okay, it doesn't state what your new hires is down in this section is all, and you eliminated it from the top section is all, so.
We can work on touching that
Sure,
up.
that was just a point of instruction.
Very good. We do realize that we're experiencing some technical difficulties for folks that are trying to tune in at home, and we're working on it.
Okay. Thank you, Lyle. Okay. We feel comfortable moving forward with any, okay, thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Lyle. If no further discussion or council commentary, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, item 26 would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5874 approving an amendment to sections 6-18 and 6-162 of the official city code to allow an owner to restore a building or structure for which the cost of repairs equals or exceeds 50% of the market value of the structure if certain minimum code standards are met. As a note, ordinance number 5874 passed on first reading at the April 15th council meeting.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance number 5874.
Second.
Motion and second, and for a refresher on this, Val Grimes, our city planner, please.
Thank you. Yes, this was the code change that was asked of us to kind of come to a compromise where we had put something in code that said that if the work exceeded 50% of the value of a structure, then it would not be rehabbed at that point in time. So we've left that, but added, unless the owner can bring the building structure into compliance with minimum acceptable standards as required by all codes adopted by Norfolk City Council, as amended within 2 years from either the date of the building permit issued, or second, the date the structure is posted as contemned or unfit for human occupancy, whichever comes first. So that does give a person the ability to then fix something up that is damaged or deteriorated over 50% of the value.
Thank you, Val. In a nutshell, this is an effort to create some reasonable flexibility for people looking to do rehab projects on housing. Is that accurate to say?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I guess just one question. They still have to come up to conform to code with structure and electrical and plumbing and all that?
With current code, yes.
Any other questions, comments?
I think it also will leave some value for that structure too, right? Because sometimes when a house is condemned, then the value goes away and it's just a lot that they can recoup. This will allow somebody who has a property and they don't have the means to fix it up and it's been condemned, to have somebody come and look at it, give them the opportunity to sell that property at a little better, it's worth more value than it is when it's totally condemned, so that's a good thing too.
Good point. Any public comment on this? Any further discussion, council? Hearing none, short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Sections 6-18 and 6-162 of the official city code to allow an owner to restore a building or structure for which the cost of repairs equals or exceeds 50% of the market value of the structure if certain minimum code standards are met, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, McCarthy, Arns, Snorton, Webb, Clausen, Murin. Voting in opposition, Hildebrand. Ordinance number 5874 carries on second reading.
Okay.
Seeing that the vote hasn't changed, do we want to suspend the rules for the third reading?
It is an option, should the council.
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? If none, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, McCarthy, Arns, Snorton, Webb, Clausen, Murin. Voting in the opposition, Hildebrand. Ordinance number 5874 carries on third reading.
Okay, that brings us to item 27, and I will abdicate the chair to our council president, Shane Clausen, since this item involves property at 105 East Norfolk Avenue, which is owned by the Norfolk Area Economic Development Foundation, of which I sit as a board member.
Is it over there yet?
Oh, yeah, thanks.
You might need it.
I might need that. I was like, okay, we got it.
Well, but I didn't put it on his because I put it on yours. Just follow.
Yep. All right, here we go. Item number 27. Need to a motion on a second reading in consideration of ordinance number 5877, approving the zoning change from C3 Service Commission District to C2 Central Commission District on the property addressed at 105 East Norfolk Avenue. Ordinance number 5877 passed on first reading at the April 15th, 2024 City Council meeting. Yeah, so I guess I just need a motion.
I'll make a motion for consideration of ordinance number 5877.
Second.
All right. There's some discussion on this.
You want to
Do we have any, I wasn't here on
Yeah.
the last meeting related to this parking. Do we have any background on that?
Yeah, we can-
Is there any changes or anything if that's related to that previous?
We can discuss that a little bit, and this is going to be, Val will be handling a lot of this tonight. We've had some issues and some conversations have been brought up from the general public that there was some concern about parking. And I think there is some justification of that, not just for that particular development, but actually for what parking is going to look like in the future in downtown Norfolk. So those are some of the things that I think have been brought up and we can discuss.
Do you need anything from me as to the parking
Not-
C3 versus C2?
I don't
or-
think so. No, we
Okay.
kind of all know, yeah.
Okay.
So. guess sitting at this chair, maybe I'll do, I can try and make an option, or am I kind of zoned into being the person running this here?
No, if you've got,
So I'm still working on it as a councilman? Okay. Well, with that being said, I think what we could do to provide some, I don't know, comfort, I guess you'd say, even though it's only in 2 short weeks, but I think we could have some real productive conversations with staff and some of the property owners in the downtown business district about parking and parking concerns, and kind of try to get some of those things out of the way now, up front, so that when we do get this in front of us in 2 weeks, I'm assuming, but if it did came back, if it did get tabled, is what I'm suggesting. And then we could bring that back in front of us and have those good discussions and have an opportunity to share those at that particular meeting, and then have the vote on changing from C3 to C2. I think that might be a good thing and calm some nerves within the public about the major change to that property. So it's a great piece of property. I don't think anybody has any concern about, what could happen there potentially. I think the more concern lies on the parking and what parking looks like in the downtown after the development takes place in the future. So, any further discussion from anybody
As
else?
you alluded to, would it be more appropriate to table this discussion until we understand what that future property is going to look like?
I don't think you have enough time to have a real detailed, you couldn't do like a parking study within those 2 weeks, right? But you could have some good conversation with staff and even some of the owners in that area of what we can do long-term to discuss and what the future looks like. I think if we can just say, hey, we do have these opportunities downtown. We could, this is an opportunity over here for a parking lot, or this is an opportunity over here for future parking, or maybe we look at it and say, we've got enough parking, but it does, I think, give us an opportunity to help people understand that, downtown is going to keep moving forward and developments are going to happen. But I think we need to just have some of those discussions so people feel comfortable and it doesn't hamper the future developer coming in. You get these conversations out of the way now, and then when somebody comes in to develop that property, you've had these discussions already.
And of course, wouldn't that kind of would determine what developers coming in there would have to determine how many spaces they would need? That would still be an unknown at this point, right?
Well, not really, because, if you talk to the board, they're going to tell you nobody is going to ever look at this property as a C3 property ever again. The only person that comes and develop that property is going to come in and want C2, because they're going to want to have the broad-based economic development impact they can have in a C2 zoning versus C3. So that's kind of a norm. We know that already. That'll never be like an Alco type department store with parking up like that again. It just wouldn't be economically feasible for a developer, for one, for what they have to pay for that chunk of property now and moving forward. So we know that already. To get that property to move, C2 zoning change is probably likely, but in the meantime, it'd be nice to have some discussion about what the future and parking looks like moving forward with a C2 designation on that property, right? And we haven't had those discussions yet, and I think that's got some people in the public kind of concerned, especially some of the downtown business owners and citizens who are going to be walking that someday when it's developed. So I don't think those conversations are unwarranted.
So who spearheads this, I guess, a 2-week study? I know it's not sufficient time, but who are you asking to spearhead this in the next 2 weeks?
I would have to direct that towards Andy. Sorry, Andy, but he can't talk on it tonight, but it's going to be staff, and we'll work on that.
Okay.
So, just piling on staff for no reason, but no.
Fair enough.
We will have to work with them on it.
Yeah, so this property is definitely going to be C2. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think not having a planned development now for the property, I think there's another developer in the area that has concerns about it. So I just think there has to be a conversation, like, what does C2 look like? Is there some parking requirements that we need to handle? But I don't think anyone's disputing that this is going to be C2. I just think you got a developer in the area that is asking is parking be a problem. And we have a $16 million investment in the backyard, plus we have a neighborhood, and then we have another investment coming in on the west side of the river. So I think just a good conversation about what that looks like and put everyone at ease to know that there won't be a parking issue, and if there is, we'll take care of it, so.
Oh. Yeah, can I talk or not? So, I've been involved with the vehicle parking district for several years, and one of the conversations that was in front of the vehicle parking district 3 or 4 years ago was a comprehensive parking study for the downtown area. And we had looked at some models around those. At the time, that conversation eventually evolved into getting rid of the permitted parking in the downtown area. And then also morphed into an existing conversation around a business and improvement district downtown. When you travel around and look at communities that have a dense downtown area, obviously they've had to develop parking solutions, and I do think that is in front of us as a function of the last 12 or 15 years of development in the downtown area. I think is a good problem to have in front of us. We're not going to solve it in 2 weeks. I would be a little bit cautious about that. Can we come to the table with some solutions, potential solutions in a couple weeks? Right.
Certainly. We've been having some of those conversations with some downtown property owners. And I think we can certainly come to the table with concepts of what could be. It's going to be, it's going to be a far away from a fully developed parking study for downtown. But again, I just wanted to iterate that it has been a discussion that we have been having as staff for some time, and we have been engaged with downtown, the vehicle parking district, and DNA and those entities. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
I guess if we're gonna, it kind of sounds like we may be leaning towards tabling this, and I understand 2 weeks is not enough time for a parking study, but if we're gonna table this, I guess the only thing that I'm gonna ask is, can we have in a 2 week time period, can we have a real detailed solution, as this is going on reading number 2, and now we're kind of changing as we have gone on.
Right. I don't think you're going to get
So,
detailed solution, but you are going to get some solutions. You'll get some direction, and that's all we're going to ask is, what direction are we going to need to go?
But detailed direction, I guess, is what I'm asking for.
It'll be direction, detailed direction, what or not, but you're still gonna have to have conversation on what direction you want to go, right? Because there's gonna be things brought up like, you've got A, B, or C, or do you pick B? You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be.
I understand.
Yeah, but I think those conversations are warranted.
I do too.
And can be done openly, where people feel comfortable what direction we're moving. Because when a developer comes back to Norfolk, eventually, somebody will. It's a great chunk of property. You're going to want them to be in a position where they don't have to overcome so many obstacles moving forward, and it's going to help out the foundation also move their property. So if we can be proactive to the parking needs, I think that's important. Right now, if we vote this now, it's like we're going to try to be proactive to the parking needs as they come up. And I just want those parking needs to be done beforehand, or talked about at least beforehand, so people are aware where we need to go. And if that's a parking study, it's a parking study. If that's just hey, we're working with this guy, he's gonna open up some lots over here, that's great. It's just we'll have some direction to say we're working on it, and we're not gonna just let you hanging out there, so.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying is that if we're gonna come back at this in 2 weeks, do we need 4 weeks so we can have better detail and better direction than a 2 week time frame if we're going to table it till the next meeting?
Good, yeah, that's a good point. If we did table the next meeting, what's the course of, I think we would have decent enough direction to be comfortable enough to go with a vote. And then you can make your decision based on that. You can say, well, I'm not comfortable with what the direction we're talking about, I'm not going to vote for it. But if I feel pretty confident with the first vote we took, that we're going to be comfortable with the direction. I'm just asking to do this to tap the brakes so that people know in the community that we're going to be having discussed parking long-term in downtown Norfolk. And I think it's going to be proactive and it's going to be good for the public overall, and it'll also be good for the future developer who gets into that spot. And I think it'll take a lot of negativity against the development going in there because we have some direction beforehand, before we get there and then have to find a solution, so.
I guess my input on this is, I mean, this request came at the direction of the current owner in this request for this change. And I think it was because it was going to be easier to move that property with that C2 zoning. And I think I think by moving it from C3 to C2 is actually going to help that area. I guess I'm not really sure I'm following the delay on this, or why we would need to table it.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Frank. Is there anybody from the foundation that wants to speak on this as far as a time frame, or is there a rush? Do we want to, that sort of thing? Because I'm kind of with you, Frank. I think this is zoning for a certain property. It is downtown, but it's already been passed in the first reading as well. So I guess, is there a reason for us to vote on this tonight or table it? Does the foundation have anyone here to speak on that part of it?
You know, the Lone Ranger tonight.
Thanks, Russ.
It's all good.
I'm Russ Wilcox. I'm on the executive team of the board of directors of the Greater Norfolk Economic Development Foundation. I don't know that we certainly don't. As a foundation, I think we stood up here a couple weeks ago and we said, hey, our job has always been to be a volunteer organization filled with volunteers with the primary intent of assisting the city of Norfolk in economic development initiatives, period. That's what we do. So, I don't know that we have on our end that how we address this, I'm struggle a little bit too in terms of, where does this go? And I guess maybe the question I would have is where does this land? What's our ultimate objective in terms of what we're trying to achieve? Are we trying to get a feel for, do we have adequate parking? And if we don't have adequate parking, how do we know that? What is our basis for determining what adequate parking is? And I think the question is maybe answered, can we answer that, not knowing what the development potentially looks like on this property? So I don't want to speak for the foundation in terms of whether is the foundation going to stand up and, light a bunch of bonfires and march down the street and say this is unjust? I think that's not what the foundation does. Our job is to, at least our mission statement is to help the community. So I don't know if I have a good answer for you in terms of where we stand on it, but I guess it would be nice to have a little bit of a direction of where we're going to go with it. And probably more than anything is we don't have a developer right now, and our desire to sell this property is still in place to a developer that's going to improve that property. So does that turn into 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months, 2 years? And is this foundation property the property that ultimately is sort of the lever that we make decisions on how we're going to develop downtown? Is this the one? Because we've developed a lot of stuff and we've asked some questions about parking, but I understand this is a bigger project, so it requires bigger questions, but where do we go? Will other developments that could happen downtown, will they be in the same situation? We're going to delay that until we determine where we're going to stand on parking. So those are some questions that kind of come to my mind as I'm listening to where does this go? How long do we kick the can down the road? Or do we just, do you just either vote it down or do whatever you need to do to I guess, to answer the questions that you feel you need to answer. I mean, you guys are the elected officials, unfortunately, put in the precarious position of ultimately having to stand up and make a hard decision. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that. I guess I'd be open to questions. I don't know if I have a good answer for that.
Well, I guess if we were just talking about moving forward, couldn't we just vote on this and then have staff have time to talk about it? As far as, I guess 2 weeks seems like not very much time to get staff, to get a detailed direction.
Sure, the intent was, 2 weeks is we're making a statement saying we want to focus on this. We want to make this is a priority to work at what we're going to do moving forward downtown. And then when it came in front of us in 2 weeks, we'd have an opportunity to present, okay, these are some directions we may go, but it's not going to hamper. Well, nobody's going to be up here going, let's do a parking study, and then you guys are kicked down the road 6 months. No, it's just a 2 week kind of, I'm saying, let's put the pressure on a little bit so we get some solutions put together that we can move forward and address and what direction we're going to go. That way we can present that, go back to the vote, and, feel more comfortable with the citizens or some of the people that had some concerns. That way they know we're moving forward versus passing it and then having some pushback against the next developer that comes in there because we didn't try to proactively have some discussion. That's the only intent tonight is all. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the intent,
that's the only intent.
Why we on our end would raise a fit
that
about
makes sense. I was, just as far as, I just didn't want to hold anything up. There was,
Yeah, that'd be my own.
It's basically just a statement saying,
Yeah.
Foundation Council want to address some of the issues that could arise from a C2.
And I think there's some questions that do need to be answered.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I've been, poor Steve's here a lot of times about parking types of
Right.
things downtown.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't think there's never a wrong time to talk about parking.
Because this will
You
go on
need
for
to
a
make sure
long
it's-
time,
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
always,
You hope it
and like
becomes a bigger
Steve said
problem.
earlier, it's a good
Yeah.
problem to have, so.
Yeah, for sure. That answer your question?
Yes.
Sort of? Because I didn't answer.
Thank you very much, yeah. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Up here? Is anybody in the audience? No? So, we can't vote, we've got somebody, if we're gonna make a motion, table, somebody's gotta make that
I would
motion.
make a motion to table.
Second.
Do we need a time frame on that so this doesn't die?
Right,
It'll either automatically come back the next meeting, or if you wanted to postpone to a date specific.
Okay,
No.
so it'll automatically come back
Yes,
on the
it'll- yeah,
20th?
it'll- Yes, it'll be on the next agenda.
Thank you.
okay, we got a motion and a second,
I'll second then.
Then no discussion on that, so.
no discussion, okay. Please vote.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry, I need to go back there. All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5877 is placed on the table.
Item 28, would look for a motion to consider approval of change order 3F with Elkhorn Paving Construction Company for the concrete improvements fiscal year 2022 to 23 project, resulting in a net decrease of $1,834.34.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of change order 3F with Elkhorn Paving.
Second.
Motion second. For some background on this, we'll hear from Anna Allen, Assistant City Engineer. Anna.
Good evening,
Evening.
Mayor and Council. This is a change order with Elkhorn Paving, final change order for the concrete repairs they did. This wraps up the contract that we had with them through the 2022 and 2023 fiscal years. The overall, the change order was kind of balancing out quantities, but it also, took into account the changes that we had made, because we added First Street to that project as well. But getting all of those quantities finalized, we got that decrease of $1,834. So if anybody has any questions, I can answer those.
Thank you. Anna, any questions on this? All right, hearing none. Any public discussion on this? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, item 29, I would look for a motion to consider approval of change order number 1F with A&R Construction Company for the Norfolk Levee Trail Connection of Norfolk Avenue project, resulting in a net decrease of $1,184.47.
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of change order number 1F with A&R Construction.
Second.
Motion second. Yep, Anna, just stick around for a while.
I'm just gonna stand there.
Go ahead, please.
So this is the final change order for A&R for the trail that they did on East Norfolk Avenue between the levee, and they went, I forgot the name of that street there, but they put in a 10-foot wide trail, and then it now connects to an existing sidewalk. So we have that continued paved surface for people to walk on and bike on.
Which was a great project to get done, by the way. We've talked about that one for some time.
Yes,
and will make pedestrian safety greatly enhanced there, especially for school kids, so.
Yeah, they got in
Good
there, they got that done pretty fast, so.
All right. Any other discussion, comments, questions on this? Public input?
I'll just add that that project the engineering on that project was donated to us by some students at UNL through JEO Consulting.
Good, great partnership.
I'll make a comment, just being on the east side of town. I've had several people that have asked for this and now it's finally done. And they've actually reached back and said how wonderful this is that it finally did get done. So good job to everybody who got it done.
Great. All right, any public comment? Hearing nothing else, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, item 20, what are we, 30? I'm sorry, I got lost. Okay, item 30. We'd look for a motion to consider approval of change order number 1F with Retgens Construction Incorporated for the Water Extension District number 129, North Highway 81 project, resulting in a net decrease of $11,350.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval, change order number 1F.
Second.
Motion second, and once again, Anna, please.
Thank you. So this is the final change order for Retgens Constructions. They did the water extension district up on North Highway 81 in Eisenhower. So that project is complete, and this is just kind of finalizing some quantities. There was some reduction in some of the work that they didn't need to do. So we got a decrease of that $11,350.
Great. Thank you, Anna. Any questions on this? Or public comment? No discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, your string of decreases has run out, Anna. Item 31, I'd look for a motion to consider approval to award a contract to Elkhorn Paving Construction Company Incorporated for the concrete repair project 2024 for an amount of $1,934,459.20.
Thank you.
I will
Oh,
offer
sorry.
for
Not yet.
consideration the approval of an award, a contract to Elkhorn Paving Construction.
Second.
Okay, motion second, and yeah, Anna, give us a background on what projects are all entailed with this program.
Okay, we went out for bids a little bit ago on April 19th. Elkhorn Paving was low bidder. So this project is going to be continuing our concrete repair projects for 2024. This is gonna be 18th Street from Paswalk down to Michigan Avenue. We have Brosh Street between 5th and 7th, and then 5th Street between Brosh and Prospect. We have East Benjamin Avenue at 1st Street, Benjamin Avenue from 12th to 13th. There's some panel repairs. Riverside Boulevard, south of Benjamin, there's some more repairs. Taylor Avenue over there on the north side of Menards is another area. And reconstructing the sidewalk on Madison Avenue between 1st and 3rd. That's where we did our asphalt overlay last year and put in new curb and gutter. And so we were gonna reconstruct that sidewalk so it matches that curb elevation. It looks out, and then Center Drive, north of the mall, is some areas for concrete repair. The area on 18th Street was with our community-driven street repair survey. 18th Street was, rated the highest for what everybody wanted to see completed. So that will be on our first priority, and part of that's going to get a full reconstruction. From Michigan up about 1,100 feet would just be a complete reconstruction of the road and curb and gutter. So our engineer's estimate on this was $2,009,726. So we are right under the engineer's estimate. We have this money budgeted coming out of CHAF. We have some ARPA dollars that haven't been used in council priority dollars, and we have some money in for our community-driven street repair project. So if anybody has any questions, I would answer.
And I know you touched on it, but can you go over how were those streets chosen?
These streets are part of them, actually probably all of them. We went through that community-driven street improvement survey. Also just knowing what we've gotten calls on in the past and know that they're bad areas, if they're really starting to fail, or if they're at the point where if we can do something now to do some panel repair and try to fix it to the point where it doesn't completely fail. So just trying to kind of prioritize those areas. I mean, we have a map areas that need improvement all over town. It's so, there's a lot.
Right, there are a
be
lot.
done. So,
and so that's why I was curious, how you narrowed it down, but it was in response to community complaints
Right.
and or the survey, right?
Correct. And then knowing, some of these areas we're gonna do repairs on this year, and then next year we would go out for a mill and overlay contract for some of these streets as well.
It's a good question, Councilman, because it does lead back to the discussion that we had last budget season about the recognition that more resources were needed to address as much as we could in the most immediate street repairs, and that was the impetus for doing that community survey. I hear a lot about input, listening to citizens. That was a process-oriented exercise in doing that. We went out directly to citizens and asked, what would you prioritize in terms of most immediate street repairs? And as Anna pointed out, probably most primarily in this specific program, 18th Street was tops among citizen concerns, and we were able to fit that in with this project. So, good process, I think. Any other questions?
Yeah, the funding source for the actual improvements, what are we looking for that? Is it CHAF?
Yeah, so we have $750,000 in CHAF, $354 in the ARPA funds.
Okay.
$492 from council priority and $450 from the community-driven street repair.
Okay.
And every year when we do our 1 in 6 year open house, we always take public comment from that too and take that into consideration.
Right.
We'll be having another one here
Next Monday.
next Monday. So there's a plug for that.
I think it's important that that was noted, because otherwise this could easily be tied to the $5 million bond that has not been voted on or passed. That's in our budget for this year, so.
Any other questions or comments? Or public comment? Okay, again, compliment the streets and engineering team for working together and taking citizen input to put together this series of projects for this summer. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item 32 would look for a motion to consider approval of change order number 1F with Bauer Underground Incorporated for the fiber optic project on Benjamin Avenue, resulting in a net increase of $605.75.
I'll make a motion for consideration and approval of change order number 1F with Bauer Underground.
Second.
Motion second. Anna, once again, please.
So this would be the final change order to close out our contract with Bauer Underground. So this project started, well, back in 2021. This was part of, before the Benjamin Avenue project started, everybody was relocating their utilities. So there was a contract with Bauer Underground to bury conduit with MPPD to move those conduits out of the way of the construction. This project, or this contract, was for actually installing the fiber optic cable and doing the splices needed along that stretch. The reason it is just getting finalized right now is they had to splice into the cabinet on Riverside where we put our traffic control cabinet. So that is finished, and we have a net increase of $605. Mostly due to needing a couple extra spices in one of the vaults. So.
Thank you, Anna. Any questions? Any public comment? If no discussion, council, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item 33 would entertain a motion to consider approval of an award contract to Rutchins Construction of Tilden for Water Main Extension District number 128, Norfolk 140 project for an amount of $262,702.
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of award to
Second.
Rutchins Construction.
Motion second. For background on this, Steve Ramus, our Public Works Director.
Mayor and council, before you is the Water Main Extension District number 128, which is a water extension for the Norfolk 140 subdivision. This would be extending water on Madison Avenue from 43rd to 45th and then north on 45th to approximately Highway 275. Engineer's estimate on this project was $323,785. The low bid was $262,702. There was a second bidder on there, $334,114. So we would recommend approval of the project. This is an accessible project. Of that, I haven't worked the numbers on that, but of the original engineer's estimate of 323, there would have been about 41,000 not assessed as a function of oversize. So there's 10-inch water main going in on this, and we assess the property owner for the value of the 8-inch, and then we consume the oversize. So I would say there's probably about $21,000 here, $25,000 of oversize that we would consume through our water utility, and the rest would be assessed. Any question?
Steve, for the record here, the Norfolk 140 project, not everybody knows what that is. That is the west
That is
Highway 275
That's
development.
that's the redevelopment west of Fountain Point subdivision, or the Fountain Point Medical Clinic area. I don't remember the number of acres. I think they're developing right around 20 acres just to the west.
Okay. Any questions?
Is this gonna be assessed, was passed, or hookup fees? How you
This would be assessed, it would be our normal assessment, so the assessment would be passed on to the adjacent property owners. So there'll be an assessment hearing that comes up late summer, early fall would be the assessment hearing.
Any further questions or public comment? Okay, if no further discussion, council, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item 34, look for a motion to consider approval to award a contract to Rutchins Construction of Tilden for sewer extension district number 255 of the Norfolk 140 project for an amount of $155,910.
I'll offer consideration to a contract with Rutchins Constructions for the 140 project, sewer extension 255.
Second.
Motion second. Steve, again, background on this, please.
Mayor and council, this is the sewer extension district number 255, which would provide sewer service to the Norfolk 140 subdivision west of the Fountain Point Clinic. This is for, low bid was $155,910. Engineer's estimate on this was $270,726. There is, most of that is assessed. Based on the bid, there would be about $20,000 that is non-assessed as a function of oversize. So on sewer, we require 8-inch sewer. We're putting in 12-inch sewer here, and so we would pay the difference in cost between the 8 and the 12.
Steve, I do have a question here. You know, you look at the two bids that are in there, big difference. And not only that, but the big difference in the cost of the actual sewer pipe. Why would that be so different?
We have seen this almost for as long as I've been here. You know, going back, I'm going to go back to the bidder's just very hungry. This is Rutchins. They have a lot of work going on in town. I think they bid it very aggressively, just to keep the work in front of them and keep the work out of their competition's hands. But going all the way back to I think it was late 2017, early 2018, we bid a 12-inch sewer extension up just south of Eisenhower, and it was the same way. Engineer's estimate was $1.2 million, and I think their bid was $488,000, somewhere around there.
Does this work also coincide with the water extension?
It does. So the water extension was just previously approved. This would be the sewer extension, and so those go in at the same time.
So do you think there's a little bit of a cost savings to that particular company because they're getting both?
There certainly is. I mean, they're there. You know, it's a single mob for them. Penrose bid them both as well. So you would think you would see a similar, you know, savings on the Penrose bid. But they don't know when they're putting these bids together. They don't know if they're going to get one or both. So it's great for us as a community to see bids like that come in. We have not had any issue with Rutchins as a function of these low bids and non-performance or any issues like that. They come in, they hammer it out, and they do a very good job for us.
So this is not a concern to you with the price difference between the two bidders?
No, not based on our history. This would be in line with what we've been seeing come in from Rutchins on bids.
Okay.
All right, any further questions? Any public input? Further council discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item 35 would look for a motion to consider approval to award a contract to Elkhorn Paving Construction Company Incorporated of Norfolk for paving District Number 521 of the Norfolk 140 project for an amount of $2,307,893.02.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval to award a contract to Elkhorn Paving Construction Company.
Motion and second, and Steve, some background once more on this, please.
Mayor and council, this would be the paving district for Norfolk 140 subdivision. Again, just west of and adjacent to the Fountain Point subdivision or Fountain Point Clinic. This will extend 43rd, about 150 feet to the south, and then it extends Madison west over to 45th and connects 45th up to Highway 275. Also adds a southbound, or I'm sorry, an eastbound right turn lane onto Highway 275. There is also a box, there's a fairly significant drainage structure there just west of or adjacent to 43rd, so there'd be a 3-barrel box culvert that gets installed there. Engineer's estimate on this was $2,306,000. Low bid on this is $2,307,893, so just about right on engineer's estimate. There were 2 other bidders on the project. A&R out of Plainview, $2,349,420.58, as well as Steve Harris Construction at $2,362,392.11. So very competitive bids on that particular project, and we would recommend awarding that to Elkhorn Paving.
Great, thank you, Steve. Any questions, council?
Steve, is there any timelines on this project?
There are, they anticipate having, the two utility projects have a substantial completion of August 1st, and the paving has a substantial completion, I think, November 1st.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Public input on this?
Jim McKenzie, just a quick question. You mentioned the non-assessed amounts on the other 2 projects. How much would be a non-assessed amount on this one? On the paving? So on paving districts, the city covers the cost of the intersection. So we've got about, based on the original estimate, about $365,000. That would be 365. Sorry, there's a little bit more. So we have $365,000 in intersection costs that we consume, and there's about another $24,000 in oversize for storm sewer that we consume. Okay, very good. And then the turn lane is assessed then too? Will be assessed to the project? Turn lane's assessed. Okay, yes. Thank you.
Any other public comment? If no further discussion, council, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item 36 would look for a motion to consider approval of the low bid submitted by Guarantee Roofing to complete the police and fire roofing project in the amount of $424,189.
Your Honor, I will be abstaining from this vote.
I will make a motion to consider the approval of the low bid submitted by Guaranteed Roofing to complete the police and fire roofing project.
Second.
Motion and second with Councilman Mirren abstaining. For some background on this, we'll hear from Chief Froggy and Chief Miller.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This has been a good process, a learning process for me, and it's something that we're happy to see the result of it and excited, especially with what you're hearing outside. We're excited to get this taken care of so that we can limit the amount of buckets that are being set out right now. So going back, you gave us, the council gave us approval to go out to bid on the roofing projects to replace membrane roofs on both Fire Station 1 and the police station. The fire station has carried money in the CIP and the police department. PD has had $215,000 in the budget for the replacement of their roof. Fire has carried $425,000 in their budget. Within that is going to be the replacement of the asphalt shingle roof at Station 2 as well, which will be going out to bid at a later date. So this specifically was bid at one project, but both the police station and the fire station downtown were bid together. As a result, we had bid opening on April 17th. Low bid was Guarantee Roofing with a total base bid of $424,189. To split that out by building, it's going to be $174,250 for the police station, $249,939 for the fire station. In addition to those base bids, we will have some plumbing costs. We had a couple different bids come in on that this last week. Going to be right around $20,000 to $25,000 split between the two buildings. If we figured roughly $8,000 to $9,000 of that'll be the police station, and the rest of that'll go toward the fire station for some drain repair and replacement. And then we have a couple couple blowers that we had in an old exhaust system at the fire station that'll need to get replaced. Those are the two main things that will be captured in the cost of these projects. There are a couple things that we will need done: control joints on each building, some vertical seams that could be contributing to some leaking. There will be some electrical work to be done, and then there will be some work to be done by electronic engineering on the communications side, the company that's got our radios up and running. Those should not be major expenditures, but they will be kind of fluent as the project gets rolling. So the target is to do the police station first. The fire doesn't have any imminent issues right now, whereas PD does, as you're all aware. So the goal is to get that rolling. So I guess staff would recommend that we move forward with the bid from Guarantee Roofing, knowing that they were the winner with 3 competitive bids on the table.
Thank you, Chief.
Only a couple of things to add. I've said this before, and again, I'll say it again. Thank you to Chief Raggi for the work that he did. He took the lead on putting all of this together, and it was a very good process. We're happy with the bids that came in. They were below what we anticipated. The question has been out there: what happens if we are able to do the police expansion? And this should not have any functional changes with our expansion, other than we have to do some vent work and stuff. But that would have been happening no matter what. So we're very pleased with it. Between the roof and the control joints and the stuff, we're confident that we'll have a good product when it's done. So again, thanks, Tim, and thanks for the council for our work on it.
Thank you, Chief. Good collaboration to achieve some savings, I think, there. Councilman Arns, did you have a question? No. Okay.
I got a question, though. So we have 2 competitive bids that separate less than $10,000, and then we have one that is $67,000 to $77,000 difference. Everything was bid the exact same. There was no exceptions, nothing, because $76,000 to $77,000 on this was an eye opener to me. So I'm questioning that.
Big difference, but they were bid the same. So they were, I think it all comes down to preference based on how bids are put together and what folks are doing. The bid specification that we chose to go with, it was bid across the board by all 3 bidders, and they met the bid specification. And at the end of the day, there was a considerable difference between the low bid and the highest bid, but ultimately we feel like we're going to get what we need out of it, and it's going to be good for a long, long time.
So we won't be seeing a change order?
We will not be seeing a change order.
Fair enough.
If I can help it.
Fair enough.
I think we're good to go. Like I said, the only expenditures that are out there that we don't know how to quantify right now are the control joints that are basically some removal of some material in there, almost like a caulking material, and resealing of those. And then the electrical and the radio equipment, those are things that when they get up there, some of the electrical, we've already talked with city electrician, and we feel like if it's just a matter of disconnecting the old blowers so that Guarantee can come in and remove those, they can do that. But if, you know, if there's things that become more extensive, they have a lot going on their roof that Chief Miller can explain too, so.
Because we have the dispatch center in our facility, we've got a bunch of conduit and wires and antennas and all kinds of equipment up there that we'll need to coordinate with electronic engineering to move and adjust and handle while the roofers are up there, and we're coordinating that with them. As Tim said, there will be an expense. I don't believe it's gonna be exorbitant, but there will be an expense that we won't know until we get into that. And we're well under budget with the original bid, so we should be in good shape.
Thank you.
We do have guarantee here if anybody has any more technical questions for them that we can't answer, so. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Any public input on this?
Brad Brooks. I'm up here in support of passing this as a member of the Civil Service Commission. And these two roofing projects are past the point where they need to be addressed. I think both fire and the police department did a good job of putting this together. And
Arns, Snorton, Webb, Hildebrand, Clausen, abstaining, Murin, motion carries.
Item 37, would look for a motion to consider approval of a professional services consultant agreement with Imbris Group LLC for MS4 update projects for an amount not to exceed $32,800.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of professional service consultant agreement with Embers Group.
Second.
Motion second, and for some background on this, once again, Anna Allen, Assistant City Engineer. Anna.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It was nice to sit down there for a minute. So this is, we're looking to get a contract for professional services with Imbris Group. They've been helping us with some of our stormwater compliance. They came in and did some stormwater training for us in the fall. And now coming up, this, our MS4, I guess just a little bit of background for everybody, is a municipal separate storm sewer system. So we have to regulate the stormwater throughout the city. So if anybody has an illegal discharge or illicit discharge, like spilling oil on the street, spilling gas down the street, you know, construction sites, getting silt and sediment into the streets, we have to inspect that and respond to those complaints. So with that, our stormwater management plan is going to needs to be updated this coming summer. So that MS4 permit that we have to follow is going to be outdated. So there's new requirements and a new permit coming out. So we have to put together a new stormwater management plan. Our illicit discharge detection and elimination program, that's out of date. We want to get that updated to the current regulations. Same with the construction stormwater management enforcement response plan and our water quality guide. So with that permit, that change in the permit coming up this summer, we also just wanted to get everything else updated along with it. So we'll get those updated. We'll update the website to be able to call out those specific manuals and those specific regulations. So, if anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Thank you, Anna. Any questions on this? So a lot of background work involved to get us up to snuff, so to speak, on how we manage stormwater throughout the city.
Correct.
Yep.
And we do have that vacant position in that was that stormwater manager. So I am currently the fill-in stormwater manager. So it's a lot to try to keep up with. So so we do have budget for this with that empty position.
Very good. All right. Any public input or comment on this? Any discussion, council? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item 38 would look for a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5881, amending section 2-5 of the official city code to update fees related to streets and sidewalks and update public works equipment fees.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of ordinance number 5881.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second. And for some background on this, we'll hear once again from Will Ewell, our streets director. Will.
Mayor, council, so this here's to update the language that, back, I think it was in January, maybe we were here to get our fees in for some of the other equipment list we had. This here comes in and corrects, takes out a bunch of language that we won't use any longer as we go to doing stuff by time and material. So you'll see a lot of it, this comes out. And then our like traffic control stuff that we rented to contractors, this brings it up to date with stuff that was already in code. And then we added on the back page where some of the others where we added 3 pieces of equipment that we forgot back when we did all the others just to cover those. So that's added on here that wasn't on there at subcommittee. So that's what takes care of this here. We had a couple of permits we updated to be where the others were with what Val has, just to make it easier across the board. So this is what this here is in front of you tonight.
Okay, thank you, Will. Any questions for Will?
Well, so is this related to like street breaks, for when they're putting in
Correct.
utilities?
So right now, we do them all and we'll continue to do them. The next step after this would be to have a meeting with the plumbing board to let them know where we're at on all the stuff we're doing. But right now, this just makes it so we can capture actual cost. The way we were doing it before, we were about half the price of anybody else if we did get called to do it, or we were doing the best way the language is. We're updating that in the next number here.
But you will still be providing the service to do it?
Yep, if they need us, but we'll just be actually getting paid for what we're doing instead of taking that loss all the time.
Any other questions or public comment? Any further discussion, council? Hearing none, please, short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 2-5 of the official city code to update fees related to streets and sidewalks, to update public work equipment fees, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, now please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5881 carries on first reading.
Seeing no opposition, I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and pass on second and third.
Second.
Motion second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5881 carries on second and third.
Item 39 would look for a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5882, amending section 22-38 of the city code related to street, curb, or gutter excavation work done by the city, and section 22-48 to address defective work done by a permittee.
I'll offer for consideration approval of ordinance number 5882.
Second.
Motion second, and once again, Will, some background on this, please.
So this here is what's in front of you is making this so that we can charge by the code that we just updated. And then the second part is if the plumber decides to do the work or hire somebody to do the work, that there's a warranty with that. If it should fail, that they have so long to come back and fix that, or if we have to fix it, we can bill them for it. So that's just updating both of these here to match the 2-5 that we just did.
Okay, thank you, Will. Any questions on this? Or public comment? Will, good staff work on modernizing some of these codes and updating fees to actually recoup the costs of your team doing the work. If no further discussion, council, short title.
An
Please.
ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 22-38 of the official city code related to street, curb, or gutter excavation work done by the city, to amend Section 22-48 to address defective work done by a permittee, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5882 carries on first reading.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and waive the second and third reading for approval of this ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5882 carries on second and third.
Last but not least, item 40. Anna, one more time, I'd look for a motion to consider approval of change order number 3 with BX Civil and Construction for the Benjamin Avenue 13th Street to First Street project, resulting in a net decrease of $220,686.42.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of change order number 3.
Second.
Motion and second, and once more, Anna, some background on this, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This change order number 3, not quite the final change order, but now that we're nearing the end of the project, we were just kind of reconciling the quantities for the project. Some of these were an overlap with the original bid items and the alternate plans that we put into place. So items like sod and irrigation overlap. So kind of cleaning up some of those items. We had some changes on our with some of our electrical equipment. And then the biggest thing here is that epoxy polymer overlay for the box culvert. Like we had talked about doing on First Street, we're going to do the same thing at the box culvert. So the addition of that in here. And then we took out some of that pavement quantity survey pin establishment, things like that. So if anybody has any questions, I will answer them.
Thank you, Anna. Any questions?
You know, will you be foreseeing, you said this is the third but not the final change, or will you be foreseeing one more?
Yes, so that next change order would be most likely the final change order. I do see finishing up with those, reconciling those quantities. But looking at all the quantities in our budget right now, it looks like we're going to come in with another negative change order at the end of the project, probably exceeding this current change order for $220,000. So I'm expecting maybe twice this much. That would be a decrease in the contract.
Any anticipated date of completion?
No.
Thank
you. I can give you an update on the project. I mean, the exact final date, it's hard to determine. I mean, they're working on the west end right now with the median and the turn lane. So they're going to pour the turn lane tomorrow, do that median work, the rest of the crosswalk this week. So I'm hoping if they get that all done this week, have to give her a little bit of cure time depending on, when they pour that drive lane in the crosswalk. So maybe by the end of next week, getting that open to traffic again. So we'd have full traffic, 2 lanes eastbound, westbound. And then they're finishing up, they were gonna finish up their lighting. I think they have a couple of more poles to put up. And then ASPM was gonna come in and do all the rest of the landscaping in one swoop. So, they do have some cleanup items, some punch list items that they'll need to work on. Once, they were gonna wait until they got the turn lane, median, sidewalks, and everything else poured, and they were gonna come back and work on those punch list items. We are near the end.
Question, kind of on the line item, you're getting into the fiber optic splice and the connectors. And we just approved an increase with Bauer Underground for something very similar. Is this the same item?
So
They're
the.
lower, we're higher
It,
here?
it is, so it was an overlap, so it was in this contract to do that splice and the enclosure, but we already had that done, through Bauer Underground for the fiber slices. And then, the enclosure, part of that came with the cabinet, with that signal cabinet that we bought. So then these are all reductions, so that
So
cost is all
it does
coming out of the
coordinate with
contract.
that Bauer Underground one? Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Or public input? Well, these are a lot better to see come in as decreases than increases. And and thank you for the update. Light is at the end of the tunnel in terms of finishing touches, and it'll be good to put it all behind us. And on budget, under budget, actually. So, any further discussion, council? If none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, that concludes this meeting of the Norfolk City Council.